Hey, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving deep into something that's at the very heart of American life, the relationship between a citizen and their country. Think of it like this. It's a two-way street, a kind of contract. You get a whole set of incredible rights, and in return, you take on some really vital responsibilities. And it's that balance that truly defines what it means to be a citizen of the United States. So, what does it actually mean to be a citizen? It's a word we throw around all the time, right? But it's so much more than just having a passport or being born in a certain place. It's this powerful exchange, a whole bundle of guarantees you receive, and a set of promises you make in return. So, let's break down exactly what that looks like. All right, here's our roadmap. First, we'll look at the foundational rights that you're guaranteed. Then, we'll explore the power of your voice, through voting. After that, we'll get into the promise of allegiance you make, cover your key civic responsibilities, and finally, wrap up with all the different ways you can serve the country. First up, let's talk about the bedrock. Before we even get into what's expected of you, it is absolutely crucial to understand the fundamental rights that are guaranteed not just to citizens, but to every single person living in the United States. And here's a really, really important point. These rights you see here, freedom of speech, religion, assembly, they aren't just for citizens. They're for everyone living in the U.S. It's a core principle of American government that some freedoms are just so fundamental they apply to all people within the nation's borders. It sets this incredibly powerful baseline of liberty for all. Okay, so from those universal rights, let's pivot to one of the most powerful rights that's reserved specifically for citizens, having a direct say in how the country is run. Yep, we're talking about the power of the vote. So, who exactly gets this powerful right? Well, the answer to that question hasn't always been the same. It's a story of struggle and of expansion, and it's written right into the Constitution through some key amendments. The right to vote, also called the franchise, has grown in a series of really critical steps. First, the 15th Amendment said you couldn't deny the vote based on race. Then, the 19th Amendment finally gave women the right to vote. The 24th got rid of poll taxes, which were used to keep people from voting. And finally, the 26th Amendment lowered the voting age to 18. Each one of these brought the nation a little bit closer to its democratic ideals. And this brings us to a super important distinction. While a lot of rights are for everyone, these three major civic functions are reserved exclusively for U.S. citizens. Voting in federal elections, running for federal office, and serving on a jury, these are really the pillars of active participation in American self-government. We've talked about the rights you receive. Now let's flip the coin. Becoming a citizen, or even just being born one, comes with this profound commitment, a promise of allegiance to the nation. The most common expression of this is the Pledge of Allegiance. For a lot of people, it's a daily or weekly ritual. But when you get down to it, it's a symbolic renewal of that promise. It's a statement of loyalty to the country and to what its flag represents. For new citizens, this promise becomes super explicit and formal in the Oath of Allegiance. A key line in there is the promise to defend the Constitution and laws of the United States. And notice, this isn't just about loyalty to a flag. It's a deep commitment to uphold the nation's fundamental legal framework. And the oath goes even further. It lays out a whole series of specific promises, giving up loyalty to other nations, obeying U.S. laws, and, if needed, a commitment to serve the nation, whether that's in the military or in other vital work. It is a truly comprehensive pledge. So how does this promise of allegiance actually show up in everyday life? Well, it's through our civic responsibilities, the practical, concrete actions that turn the idea of citizenship into a reality. So let's just be clear on what we mean here. A civic duty is basically an action or a responsibility that's expected of every member of a society. Some of these are things we choose to do, while others, well, they're actually required by law. Let's take paying taxes, for example. It's not just a rule. It's a civic duty that's written right into the Constitution with the 16th Amendment. This is how the government funds, well, everything, from our national defense to our roads and bridges. It's both a legal requirement and a fundamental responsibility of living in this society. It's helpful to think of these responsibilities as being in two different buckets. On one side, you've got the actions that are required by law, like paying your taxes, or for men between 18 and 25, registering for the Selective Service. On the other side, you have voluntary civic participation, things like voting or joining a community group. They might not be legally mandatory, but they are absolutely vital for a healthy democracy. And that brings us to our final section, putting it all into action. Beyond the things you have to do, there are countless ways to actively serve the country and really live out your role as a citizen. Civic participation is this huge spectrum. I mean, voting is fundamental, of course, but you can also join a political party, you can volunteer for a campaign, you could become part of a local community group, or you could simply contact your elected officials to make your voice heard on an issue that you really care about. So when we ask how Americans can serve their country, the answer is just incredibly broad. It starts with the basics, right? Obey the law, pay your taxes, but it extends all the way to serving in the military, running for office, or working for the government at any level. Service takes so many different forms at every level of commitment. And that brings us to the final, crucial point. Being a citizen, it's an active role, not a passive one. It's this continuous balance of rights and responsibilities. So the question I want to leave you with is this. Knowing all the ways you can participate and contribute, how will you choose to serve?